Kashmiris are back on the streets of Indian-administered Kashmir, demonstrating in what some say have been the deadliest protests since 2010.
Now we'll ask those on the ground what moves need to be made to ensure sustainable peace in the region.
Good to see you in the stream. I'm Femi OK.
And I'm Omar Badar. Since protests broke out this month in Indian-administered Kashmir, we've received numerous calls from our online community to discuss the current situation on the ground. Some have even shared their personal experiences. From reports of media blackouts to curfews, social media has been a vessel for young Kashmiris, or at least the ones who have access to it, to get the word out about what has happened there where they live. Now, given the wide range of views on this topic, we encourage Twitter users of all perspectives to join in by tweeting using the hashtag AJStream.
Life continues to be under a brutal siege for the 12th consecutive day.
So Srinagar is actually turned into a kind of a massive aid, medical and relief center with people, volunteers doing a wonderful job of helping the injured and their attendants.
In our area, that is South Kashmir, due to this lockdown, there is a medical emergency on the ground. My mother, who is a bipolar disorder patient, is running out of medicines and I am feeling helpless.
I'm a Kashmiri student studying in New Delhi, India. I'm not able to contact with my home for days now.
Dozens are dead and more than 1,500 seriously wounded following clashes between protesters and security forces this month. Protests erupted after Indian troops killed Burhan Awani, a 22-year-old fighter for the Hizb-ul-Mujahideen, a group fighting against Indian presence in the region. But many say Awani's death was just the tipping point. Kashmiris have accused the Indian government of failing to engage with the population, disenfranchising them from economic and political opportunities.
Now, some argue that the recent events highlight how fragile the situation has been in the region for years, and many are questioning whether things will be any different after the dust settles.
Government officials say resolving the situation is a top priority. To help us talk about this, we're joined by Issa Batul. She's a writer, activist and social worker coming to us from Srinagar. Also there we have Karan Pervez, a human rights activist. In New Delhi, Nitin Gokhale, he is a national security analyst, and Rakesh Sinha is director at the India Policy Foundation. We also reached out to several government officials in India, but none were able to join us. Guests, particularly Nitin and Karam, I want to show you something on my laptop. So lean forward and look at your screen. Here's a headline from Al Jazeera from a few days ago. Pellet guns cause severe eye injuries in Kashmir. I'm going to scoot down. I want you to look at these pictures and give me your response. This is in a hospital where there have been over 100 injuries from the protests in Indian-administered Kashmir, particularly around the eyes. And these, you can see how young these people are. So when you see these pictures, Nitin, what is your response?
Well, first response is perhaps the troops who are trying to control the rioters and the stone pelters, as we call them, they need to be better trained, because these so-called pellet guns, which are actually, the pump action guns, are area weapons. They are supposed to be fired at your feet, at the protesters' feet, and then the 60% of the pellets really scatter right up to your waist high. Unfortunately, when you are faced with a mob of say 400-500 people against 10 odd policemen, panic sets in and people start firing in the air, which then causes the injury. So it's a blame which both sides should share. Because I think young people coming out on the streets and trying to attack policemen and law enforcement agencies is a failure of the society, of elders and parents in Kashmir. They should be trying to restrain people rather than trying to instigate them. And my view is that nearly 50% of the rioters have been paid to really go and pelt stones there and attack policemen and law enforcement agencies or the enforcers there.
Nitin, let me just ask Karam. Karam, you saw exactly the same pictures. What was your take on those pictures?
That's typical Indian myopic understanding and view, where they would want to twist the truth every time. This is what Indian media, Indian civil society is always doing. They're inciting the violence against the people of Kashmir, and they are legitimizing the violence perpetrated by the Indian armed forces in Jammu and Kashmir. When Burhan Wani was killed, people wanted to participate only in his funeral procession. People were not protesting against his killing. People knew that militants are being killed. Burhan Wani was there fighting, and he knew that he would have got killed otherwise as well. But the issue is, why is government firing on the protesters or people who wanted to mourn Burhan Wani's death? What is the problem? Why would you fire? Is it embarrassing you so much that you are embarrassed that Kashmiris en masse wanted to participate in Burhan Wani's funeral procession? They fired.
Well, Quran, 7,000 people participated, I think.
On children, around 3,700 civilians, unarmed civilians, have been attacked by pellet guns and live ammunition. Around 48 people have been killed in last 12 days. And how many soldiers have been killed? Were these mobs killing soldiers? No, there is only one police wala who was killed only for one reason. His vehicle turtled because stone pelters were pelting stones on the army vehicles. He was trying to do bravado and he got killed because he lost control over his vehicle. So who is getting killed? Why are you calling the protesters as Reuters? And what is your opinion about these killer Indian Army forces?
You know,
the CRPF, which is not allowing any ambulance to go. If you are attacking the ambulances, nowhere in the war ambulances are being attacked.
So we do have people online who are weighing in on essentially what the situation on the ground is as well. So we have Ruqayya over here who says people are running out of life-supporting medicines and baby food. Tough time for patients and mothers-to-be. And we have Burhan here who says it's bullets, pellets, pepper gas, media gag, internet down, phone communications down, TV cable down, curfew and death. Isar, is this your sense of what is actually, is this an accurate depiction of what is happening on the ground?
It is an absolute description of what is happening on the ground here in Kashmir. I think my friends in Delhi have been living a dream for the past few days, for the past 12 days to be exact, where we have no communication at all, save for a broadband connection, which also works because this is a government-owned company and most of the VIPs and ministers in the state use BSNL, and that's why they can't shut it down. So far, this is the only means of communication where we can communicate with outside world, and where we have been able to break the silence around India's occupation of Kashmir, as opposed to what a friend from Delhi just said, that
occupation
international
is something that everybody has been speaking about for a long time.
Let me complete. Yeah. So it's very sad that he says that the pellets are fired. They're supposed to be fired on the feet and they're supposed to go up to the waist, and they are not. We just see them in the head, in the eyes, and also bullets. They are supposed to be fired somewhere else. They're not supposed to be fired at all. But they are also fired above the waist to kill. So the Indian armed forces shoot to kill and not to disperse. These are not rioters. These are protesters. And you are using, I won't even call this disproportionate force, because there has to be a comparison of proportions if you're comparing forces. You cannot compare a stone with a bullet.
Right? Let me just
in India
allow Nitin to actually respond to you. I think you've made your point very clearly. Nitin, go ahead.
Well, I must say this, that if you're faced with a mob of, say, 2,000 people, 3,000 people, and if they are outnumbered, what are the police going to do? They will be restrained for a while, they will withdraw for a while, and after that they will use whatever available to them. They have learned from the experience of 2010. And to say that they were not allowed to protest.
Karan, just give me a moment so I can hear Nitin clearly, and then I can hear you. So, Nitin, go ahead.
And I think Burhan Wani's funeral was allowed, people were allowed to go there, but why are people continuing? Burhan Wani's funeral has happened 10 days ago. Why are people still out on the street? Why are they damaging their own property? Why are they damaging shops? Why are they hitting at the life and property of their own people?
I think Karan might have a few answers to your whys. Why are people still demonstrating, Karan?
Why are people demonstrating? It's not very difficult to understand. Burhan Wani's life was important, and the life of last 48 people who have died, their life was important. So people are protesting over these overlapping tragedies. I think
so many people are dying. I think entire discussion is going in the wrong direction. I think
Let's bring in
Rakesh. Rakesh, we'd love to hear from you. Let me bring in Rakesh. Rakesh, go ahead.
Let me intervene. Look, Jammu and Kashmir is one of 29 states of India. It signed this letter of accession, the same letter of accession for the instrument of accession for every Indian states. So Jammu and Kashmir is no different from other states like Assam, Uttar Pradesh, or any other state of India. Look, it is not Indian-administered state. I object Al Jazeera televisions using this term Indian-administered. It is an Indian state.
Yeah,
Secondly,
even I object it should be Indian-occupied Kashmir.
All right. Just give me a moment here. The reason we call it that is because right now it's disputed between Pakistan and it's disputed and it's the best phrase for us to use at the moment.
This is not the best phrase.
But Rakesh, I'm not going to debate the phrase because what's happening down on the ground is so much more important. Let's not get distracted by that. So hold tight for a moment. I'm going to push things on just a little bit because we're wasting time talking about a phrase when it's really what's happening that is of more importance rather than vocabulary. So let's allow me to move on.
Rakesh, I'm actually coming to you. I'm actually coming to you with this, so you'll get a chance. I want to bring in our online community. I'm coming back to you, Rakesh, in just a moment. So we have people who are talking about the communications breakdown. Musharraf over here says phone networks, internet snapped. We're living in a stone age, and we have Baba Tamim over here who says due to restrictions on communication, it is really a local bulletin at a hospital that is sharing the news about the latest statistics and what is happening. So Rakesh, why do you think it's important to crack down on communications during times like these? Why don't these things stay up?
This is not important question. What is important is that
people in Kashmir might disagree, though.
A section of people in Jammu and Kashmir are guided by jihadi terrorism. They are backed by Pakistan, and it is happening every part of the world now. And Burhan Wani was a terrorist. He was killed. How to treat a terrorist? There is no human right for a terrorist, I am telling you. Second thing, second most important point is
Rakesh, you are talking like an Islamophobic person. You're talking like an Islamophobic person.
Let me complete.
So Rakesh, finish your sentence because time is ticking here. Karam and Rakesh, guess.
He's not allowing me.
Pause for a moment. Everybody pause for a moment.
No,
Rakesh, finish your sentence. And then we're moving on.
India is a multicultural state, and in Jammu and Kashmir, Hindus and Muslims are residing together for thousands of years. Today itself, 600 Hindus have been compelled to leave Kashmir Valley. Nobody is discussing that. You are just giving one side of picture. And 91,000 Hindus were forced to leave Kashmir Valley. Who was responsible? Who were responsible? These were jihadis. We want a multicultural state. And in Jammu and Kashmir, there is a democratically elected government. My dear friend, in 2014, there was Lok Sabha election, there was assembly election, and democratically elected government. Separatists wanted to boycott the elections, but their appeal was foiled by the enthusiasm of the people. So in a state where there is a democratically elected government, you are telling about the Azadi. Which Azadi? It is a jihadi. They are not Azadi. They are very few people, microscopic people. They are now using the dead body to create a sentiment. And Burhan Wani was a terrorist. Hizbul Mujahideen is Pakistani-backed terrorist organization. Same thing is happening in France. Same thing is happening in Britain, in America. So every state is taking action against the terrorist organization and terrorism. We are also taking action.
The problem in New Delhi is that it wants to live in denial, and it is believing its own lies now, and therefore we do not see any forward movement from New Delhi. The New Delhi government, as well as the civil society, is misleading
New Delhi government
and
is yours government.
Own people.
So guess, just give me a moment, everybody.
Please let me talk.
Karam,
let me talk.
Let me talk because I am the host of the program. So let me just throw this out to you because we go round and round in circles. Let me show you something here. This is the Minister of Home Affairs and from the government of India, and he says he's deeply anguished at the loss of precious lives in incidents of violence in Jammu and Kashmir. Also pray for the speedy recovery of the injured. Issa, other than being anguished and praying, what concrete developments or engagement is there between Kashmiris and Indian officials? Because I hear this debate going round and round and round and round. But tell me where progress has been made, Issa.
Can I come in there?
No, because your name is not Issa. But I would like to hear from you in a moment. Issa, go ahead first.
Yeah, the progress in this case is nowhere. You've already seen how the state has been, trying to call its own lies truths. How it has tried to, label this mass movement, this mass uprising, as a
No,
small
Isa, you
number
are
of
wrong.
people who are
Isa, you
out
are
on
wrong.
the. You're allowed to
Is
judge,
it
but
wrong
I'll
that
complete my
there is
sentence
appeal from
first.
the mosque?
So
Mosques are
the
being
So
thing,
used.
Rakesh,
the
allow
Wait,
I live
Isa
here.
to finish her
I live
sentence
here.
and then we'll come to
I
you.
live here. I live in Kashmir. I don't live in New Delhi. I know what is happening here, right? So what is happening is that the irony is that
We are
the
also
Ministry
sorry for
of
the
India actually updated this on Twitter when they had snapped all
no.
communication lines. I don't know who he was
So
angry
Can
Isa,
you
about.
answer? Can you
Then
answer?
Isa,
Isa,
give me
answer
a
me.
moment.
Isa,
Isa, give me a
I
moment.
have one question. I have one question from
Rakesh,
Isa.
what's
I
the-
have one.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have
Ask
one
the
question to Isha.
Sure.
Yes. 600 Hindus have been thrown out from Kashmir in transit camp today. Have you any word? 91,000 Kashmiri Hindus are living in other parts of India, and you are not welcoming them. Kashmir doesn't belong to a particular section of people. It belongs to all, Hindus and Muslims.
I think you are missing out on all those news that keep on coming in of how Kashmiri Muslims have always, taken care of Pandits. But the unfortunate problem for you people like you is that you just want to create it, present it as a communal problem.
Isa and
You just have
Rakesh,
whatever.
I'm really focused
No,
on this idea of
Isa, you are not answering.
development
Isa, you are
and
not answering. You
engagement
are
with
escaping.
India.
Isa, you are
Rakesh,
on that
no.
note.
Rakesh, no
Isa, you are
answer
on
can
that
also
note.
be an
I didn't
answer.
answer you.
Isa, Rakesh, give me a moment. No answer can also be an answer. I've learnt that in my years at the stream. Omar, go ahead.
We actually got a video comment from Uzma, who's basically talking about the situation and the relations with India. Check it out.
The huge people support for Burhan Wani yet again show that India is fighting a lost battle in Kashmir. At this stage, we must also refrain from dichotomizing the Kashmir resistance movement into violent and non-violent. I think in a military occupation, classifying resistance into violent and non-violent is deeply problematic. It is as problematic as it is to call an occupation as violent and non-violent. An occupation is an occupation and it must be fought by all means and on all fronts. And putting this burden of correct way of resisting on people is deeply unethical.
Nitin, I want to ask you about the first part of that, the idea that India is fighting an unwinnable battle here. Is that your assessment also, that after all these years, what's your take?
No, I think now what is happening is because militancy and insurgency and terrorism is now at a very low ebb, and these are desperate measures. Burhan Wani was a symbol of the new age terrorist who was more popular on social media platforms than he was in real life. And once he picked up the gun and he started instigating people to kill security forces and go against the Indian state, his days were numbered. It is always said that in Kashmir, a terrorist's life is counted in days or weeks, and that's exactly what he paid for with his life. To say that his funeral was not allowed to be attended by people is also wrong, because 7,000-8,000 people attended. But my question is fundamental. Why are people still protesting? If you are so supportive of Burhan Wani, you have your own elected government in Jammu and Kashmir. Why don't you talk to them? Why are you constantly talking about India and not your own government, which has been elected by a majority of the people? The democratic process has been there. People have gone and voted there. So it's a contradiction. On one side, you say there is an occupation by the Indian Army. I think the Indian Army has managed to bring down terrorism and insurgency there to allow democratic process to go on. They are only enabling that democracy to flourish in Kashmir. And to say that India is an occupation army or India has an occupation army in Kashmir is, I think, a complete travesty of truth.
Where in the world, in such a small territory like Jammu and Kashmir, we have 650,000 troops?
That's a wrong number. Not more than 100,000. Not more than 100,000.
Let me just say it. We have detailed that this number in our report. The government has so far not rebutted us. The army has not so far rebutted us. I don't know why you are rebutting on behalf of army. If the army has asked you to
I know,
rebut,
because
then
I am a
that's
security analyst, so I know the numbers.
No, you are a security analyst who's supposed to lie every time. So let me just speak what I have.
And the human rights activists are supposed to say only truth, is it?
Yes, of course. We do speak truth. And that's why we pay the price. I was attacked
Oh
by your
yes,
army, the valiant army. I was
I am
attacked.
not
My
army.
colleagues were attacked. Yeah, you represent them. You represent their thought. So let
I
me
don't.
just
And you
make my
represent
point.
All right, so
terrorists.
guess
Then I would say.
I'm moving on because we're doing tit for tat and getting
Yeah,
nowhere.
every
Rakesh,
time
it's good to let me bring Rakesh back into this conversation. We asked our online community, Rakesh, about political changes that might actually resolve the Kashmir crisis. Have a look here to see what Muram Kazi said. There can be no political changes in Kashmir within the Indian constitution. A referendum is a must. What progress do you see within the Indian administration, where they are saying, okay, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to resolve Kashmir crisis? What can you share with us that you know about?
No, there has been democratically elected government in Jammu and Kashmir.
Exactly.
Not for this year, only in 2014. In 2002 there was election, 2008 there was election, 2014 there were two elections.
We lost Rakesh there. Sorry about that, Rakesh. Nitin, you were agreeing with Rakesh there. So you were saying democratic elections, that's the answer? There should be no
Yes,
referendum?
of course. I mean, there have been free and fair elections for the last 10, 15 years now. Even if you discount the earlier elections as rigged or fixed, the people have accepted it. The own people from Kashmir have got elected as chief ministers. They have tried their best to engage with people. So to say that referendum is an old hat. It's an old refrain of the people which has outlived its utility. Despite the fact that Britain has had the referendum, but the referendum is not the answer. There has been democratically elected governments, and if you don't like the government, throw it out. So get some other elected government there. But despite their attempts, best attempt, terrorists have not got their own choice of government in Kashmir. So what are we talking about? There is a democratic process. Free and fair elections have been allowed by the government.
The democracy of India is very reflective in this gentleman's comments when he says referendum is not the answer. This is supposed to
It
be
is
the
not.
answer. Why are you so afraid of a referendum? If you think that
It is not afraid.
democratically elected government is the answer, just have a referendum once. What's there
So
to be
why don't you
afraid
engage
of?
with the elected government?
So-
Why don't you
I'm
engage
just
with the
saying
elected
have a
government?
referendum. Why don't you have a referendum?
We have other
I can
suggestions that are
ask you
coming in on our online community as well. So we have Owais over here who says what we need is demilitarization of the civilian space so people can exercise their right to protest and demonstrate. And we got this picture here from Zed who says the poster over here says those who agitate beyond this point will be fired upon.
Of course.
Khurram, just a question for you.
I have one objection.
Hang on a second. Just tossing this to Khurram real quick.
Let me have one.
Khurram, do you think that it's possible
one objection.
to basically, just give us 1 second. I want to toss this to Khurram real quick. Do you think it's possible that short of a referendum, that there could be actions like this, like allowing people to protest, that might be considered progress short of actually getting independence?
You know, these people who are apologists of this occupation, I want to ask them this question. In the last 26 years, thousands of people who've been killed, thousands of cases where even the police, the Jammu and Kashmir police has investigated the human rights abuses. Why is there not even a single prosecution? Why is not even a single armed forces personnel being prosecuted by the civilian courts? Why not even one? Why do we have a case like Kunan Poshpura where 40 women were raped and nobody has been punished in 25 years? Why do we have 8,000 disappearances and no one has been punished? What kind of democracy are they talking about? On ground in Kashmir, even the courts and executive actually are trying to strengthen the control and control the people of Jammu and Kashmir. There is no democracy. Elections are not the only thing in a democracy. How is dissent being tolerated in Jammu and Kashmir?
No.
What is the space for?
And who are the
political
judges and
dissent?
the police
The
in
leaders-
Jammu and Kashmir? Aren't they your own people?
No, five out of 8 judges are from outside. We know how judges are
For the
appointed
first
even in
time,
New Delhi.
for the first time, I'm listening that someone is saying that election is.
So what
No,
you're listening
because
to,
even
what you're listening to,
even the former
everybody who's
Indian
watching
Prime
right now,
Minister-
are the voices of Kashmiris and also the voices within India as well, talking about the Kashmir crisis. One show is not long enough. We are going to go online at stream.aljazeera.com. I know, Omar, you have had a lot of response to this conversation.
Absolutely, yes. We'll save a lot of it for the post show. We definitely have a lot of it still coming in.
We're taking our guests, we're taking you to stream.aljazeera.com. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Hello, I'm Femi OK, and you're in the Streams online post show. We're talking about Indian-administered Kashmir. As I say that, I know all of our guests are upset with me. I suppose that is fine. If everybody is upset with me, then that's good, rather than two and being upset and two not. So I think we're in a good position here. But I know, guests, you have questions for each other. But before that, I know our online community have some responses from the conversation we've had so far. So Omar, you start, and then guests, you can actually do Q&A with each other, because I'd love to hear that too. You go first, Omar.
So we heard a little bit from Rakesh talking about Pakistan's involvement in the violence there. And we have some reactions online. People like Owais over here, who says, Indian media is obsessed with Pakistan, resulting in Kashmiri aspirations being treated as hocus pocus from Pakistan, while Burhan says Indian media portrays our indigenous freedom struggle as Pakistan-sponsored terrorism, and we need to burst their bubble. Isar, do you have the sense that if media coverage in India was different, you would have a lot more popular support in India, and maybe that would influence government policy as well?
I don't know about influencing the government policy, because that is the government is just an extended arm of maintaining occupation in Kashmir. But definitely, if the Indian media was a bit more true to their ethics of journalism, we would have many Indians who would know about the actual situation in Kashmir. Many Indians have been arrested in the past few days for showing their support for the Kashmiri freedom movement, and many of them their accounts were blocked from Facebook for showing their support. So we know already how the Indian media has been controlled to just show one side of the story to an audience that is ready to be hyper nationalistic, jingoistic and patriotic just by bringing in Pakistan. They are not telling them that these are Kashmiris who march in thousands and lakhs in numbers on nights, do not care about the essentials if they are gone, do not care about their lives, and just march and say just one word, Azadi, which means freedom. They do not want the people to hear that. So whoever among the Indians has come here, lived among the Kashmiris, knows this and supports the cause of the Kashmiri freedom movement.
Omar, you just say you're hearing from community who are actually very supportive of what the status quo is right now in India.
That's right.
Do you want to share those?
Essentially, we asked a little bit earlier in the show the question of whether it makes any sense to cut off communications and access to news, and we do have people who are supportive of that. People like Gilliam over here, who says, I think it's good that the media has been cut off, as uncertain reports have been misinforming people and causing more resistance. We are being radicalized and enticed on various grounds by a few leaders and other parts in some parts of Kashmir. Khurram, how would you respond to people who think that actually clamping down on media makes sense in the current climate?
You know, the media clampdown has only contributed to further chaos and has contributed for scare amongst the people. People are feeling very scared. They don't know about their relatives. They don't know about their friends, about the welfare of people. So therefore, I don't think the blockade of media has helped anyone. It hasn't helped, of course, the people. It hasn't helped Government of India's interest, because it appears to be a very hegemonic country in the international media as well. But I wanted to have a question for our guests from India. If the Indian government in last many years has continued to have dialogue and interrupted dialogues repeatedly, it has been interrupted. They've had dialogue with Pakistan. They've had dialogue with the Kashmiri Hurriyat leadership as well. So what were they talking about if Kashmir is not an occupation, if it's not a dispute? What were they talking about? Why have there been bilateral...
Khurram, I'm going to get you to stop the question there so your question can get an answer. Rakesh, do you mind answering that question? Rakesh, do we have you?
I think Kashmir has never been in the agenda of Indo-Pak dialogue. Kashmir has never been in the agenda of Indo-Pak dialogue. You are wrong. And Government of India is not talking to any third party. Kashmir is an integral part of the nation, and moreover, Kashmir Valley is only 15% of the entire state, Jammu and Kashmir, only 15 states. And terrorism is in only 4 districts of South Kashmir, that is Pulwama, Anantnag, Shopian and Kulgam. So don't project.
So here's what I'm seeing, guess, is that you're asking each other questions and you're laughing at the answers. So do you actually even care about the answers if you already decided and predetermined your position? Nitin, go ahead. What do you want to say?
No, I'm not predetermined. I've reported on Kashmir for a long time, and my considered view is that there have been mistakes, historical mistakes on both sides. But in this particular case, in the last 10 days, I think it's a completely sort of misplaced agitation, because a terrorist is a terrorist, and if you just try and support him for whatever reasons, this is not spontaneous, I can tell you that. This has been instigated from both by people who are separatists who are in Kashmir Valley, as well as across the border in Pakistan. And it is not something that that has become just erupted out of the love for Burhan Wani. This has been taken advantage of by people who have a different vested interest, those who want to keep Kashmir on the boil. My point is...
Nitin, what Western interests?
Not Western, vested interest.
Vested interest.
Vested interest.
I apologise. Let me show you something, Nitin. This came through just today, and this is from Trailer Smith, and it says support from Tamil, hashtag Tamils stand with Kashmiris, and here's the sign here. So within India, there are people who are behind the cause of Kashmiris, who feel like they should have independence, a referendum, greater autonomy, all the issues that they're actually asking for.
We've gone over that ground quite a lot. I don't think, and this one that you're showing, these are the people who are supporters of the LTT, the Tamil Tigers. Basically of the same, the birds of the same feather flock together, and therefore I'm not surprised. The point here is, why are the elders in the Kashmiri society not restraining youngsters who are aged 10 years and 15 years coming out on the streets?
So Nitin, let me see if I can get you an answer. Issa, we saw those horrific pictures at the beginning of people youngsters being hurt by pellet bullets. So Nitin was saying, why aren't the elders in the community making sure that the youngsters are not in that position? Your response would be what?
Yeah, the problem is that some people and Indians would want us to believe that this is a movement that is just led by some misguided youth, the term that they use. But that is not the truth. Everyone is together in this movement, whether it's the elderly people, it's the youngsters, it's children. Because just tell me, how do children get injured? Just tell me, how does an 80-year-old woman get beaten? How does a woman get shot in the head? How do women get injuries, bullet injuries and pellet injuries as well? Are you trying to tell us that they were misguided as well? How do elderly people get shot? How are they dying? So they have been trying to divide this movement on basis of age, gender, even on sectarian lines, and even on regional lines, where they say that some areas are quiet and it's only some areas. That's not true. Anyone who cares to...
Let me ask you if you can possibly do this, because we're almost out of time, and our time on the internet is almost at the end. And Nitin, just bear with me for a moment. Rakesh's Skype has been going in and out. So I want to go to Rakesh while we still have the Skype. I want to ask you something in a single sentence, if you can do it, a bit like when I asked you in the beginning of the show, and that is, these protests, these recent protests, what difference will they make? Rakesh, in a sentence, just a thought, what difference will these protests make, these current protests?
They are...
Nitin, help us out here. Unfortunately, yes. we're struggling with Rakesh's Skype. I apologize, Rakesh. I'll tell you, what difference will it make? I think it will make people sort of introspect and find out, is this the way forward? Why can't there be a proper discussion between the leaders who are leading this so-called spontaneous protest? I am calling it so-called because it's not spontaneous in my view.
That's your thought.
And the Chief Minister.
Yeah.
And the Chief Minister or the elected government, why can't the elected government be brought on board in Jammu and Kashmir?
So Nitin's asking a lot of questions here. That's his thought. What difference will these protests make, Karam?
I think these protests have actually unmasked India and India's insecurities in Jammu and Kashmir. India looks completely naked to the people of Jammu and Kashmir. They are naked, very violent, whether it's the Indian Parliament, they endorse the violence, and whether it's the street where the armed forces are perpetrating the violence. The violence is the only means used by the Indian state to engage with the people of Jammu and Kashmir.
All right,
they do not have.
Karan, let me just see if I can try and get back to
dialogue.
Rakesh, because I hear what you're saying. It was a single thought I wanted. Rakesh, let me see if I can hear your single thought again. Oh, he's frozen again. All right, Rakesh, I tried really hard. I apologize. Issa, a single thought here. What difference will these protests make?
See, these protests have, as Khurram said, already unmasked India's, interest in Kashmir and India's occupation of Kashmir. Also, they have helped to break the international silence that India had created around Kashmir.
All right, Omar, where do you want to leave us?
I'll leave us with a couple of thoughts from our online community. One on the neutral language we've been using. Anne takes issue with it, saying what's happening there is not unrest, it's a movement, an uprising. Freedom is our demand and we will fight for our freedom. And then we have Majid over here, who sees this going on for a while, saying despite more than a week of punishing curfews, mobile and internet ban, people have not been defeated by the state.
Thank you, Issa, Karam, Nitin and Rakesh, who of course his Skype is now unfrozen now that I'm saying goodbye to him. Rakesh, thank you so much, and guests for getting up so early, for being part of our programme. Appreciate it. Take care, everybody.